All right, we have 8 viewers now. We can start. Uh, let's wait for a couple of minutes for more viewers to join in. All right, so people are there. We can start. And great. So, well, how this basically works is that, first of all, really sorry for the delay. I was stuck in real bad traffic and I was heading home from office. So, uh, all right, so this session is going to be about purely about rules of procedure. We've covered the history of the organization, various international organization, how do they function, what do they do, all about it. Although if you have doubts about it, we can deal with that. And this will again work in a similar fashion that if you guys have any questions, queries in your mind, then you just put it on the chat because obviously I can't hear you. So yes, this is how we will do it. So well, let's start with the rules of procedure. So we will start from the point when you have reached the conference, okay? Because most of our work starts the moment we have reached the venue, all right? So what do you think, what is the first thing that you do when you reach the conference? Please don't say register, because that's not what you do. Uh, what do you think your first thing should be when you have reached the conference venue? What really do you think that should be done? If you can give me your inputs on the same, like what do you think should be done on that? I repeat, I'm just asking you that once you reach the venue, what do you think you do? What is the first thing that comes to your mind? What exactly, what is your conduct? What is, do you think should be done, or what do you do? As simple as that. You can post in your replies on the chat itself. All right, guys, just try and type faster because let's not waste a lot of time on that. Start creating blocks. Not really. That is something you do on the second day or at the end of the first day, because a lot can happen over debate. You don't know that who is heading where. Committee get together. Okay, all right. Committee get together. Not really. It's kind of a get together, but it has a motive, and I'm looking for a very different word here. If you can, if anyone can tell me. All right, what we're looking at is lobbying. Okay. Now, what is lobbying? Lobbying is nothing but when you are targeting your own agenda and interests, and when you are looking at you can say when you're looking at various aspects of the debate and you only want those aspects to come up that will be of use to you in the course of the debate. Okay, so this is the point when you tell people that I am looking forward to such and such debate. You try and mold their opinion. You talk to them and you tell them that this is the way it has to be done. If it is not done in this particular manner, then something will go wrong. You try and convince them. This is the lobbying phase. Once you reach there, it is the lobbying phase. And once that happens, you know that which country or which delegate, in fact, because to be honest, a lot of foreign policies, they go haywire in the MUN conference. People get together. Various countries that won't get together on certain issues get together, and they have their own reasons for it. So you can't really predict that who's going where. So lobbying is one of the most important aspects when it comes to okay, opening ceremony. No, no, not really. We're not really interested in that when it comes to being a delegate. I mean, most of the delegates find the opening ceremony to be boring, usually. But we hope that we can do something better for you. But anyways, that's not. I'm talking in pure debating sense, and opening ceremony is nothing for the debate. So, talking particularly of when you are talking about certain, you can say, the aspects of the debate, when one is trying to convince the other people in the committee that yes, this is what I need to do. Okay, and you need to generate support for the same. And oh, it's okay, Manas, you don't have to be sorry for that. And now, moving on from there, you know that what the stand of the other people are going to be. You know what other people are going to think, do, whatever. So now you mold yourself according to that. You know what is coming your way. You know what is heading your way. You know what needs to be done. So hence, that is happening. You will have to uh, mold yourself according to them as well. Okay, now this completely depends on your own lobbying skills. If your lobbying skills are good, you will be able to mold other people, and it is not necessary that people will listen to you. You have to make them listen to you. You have to be good. You have to be convincing. If you're not convincing, people will not listen to you. People will not respond to threats and warnings you make. Threats, and by threats and warnings, I mean that you're not literally threatening them, but you tell them the adverse effects of something that you don't want to happen. Okay, so if you're telling them the adverse effects of something that you don't want to happen, then they will obviously back off. They will not want to raise that particular issue in the committee. For example, if you're discussing human trafficking and there's delegate of Afghanistan, I'm delegate of Afghanistan, and there's delegate of Russia, and you know that Afghanistan is one of the topmost source and destination, and also a transit country when it comes to human trafficking. So I really don't want a topic like porous borders, okay, to be discussed. No, not exactly to be discussed, but to be brought up in a very wide scope of the debate. So what I will do, I will walk up to the delegate of Russia or other countries, and I'll tell them how bringing this up can also damage them, because they are an armed country. They are a P5. It will look really bad on them if they have if they're if these countries are not able, if a country like Russian Federation is not able to defend its own uh, borders, then it will really look bad upon them. Whereas Afghanistan can definitely take the defense. You tell them that. You tell the delegate of Russia that, and you tell them that Afghanistan can literally say that we are a very weak nation as of now, considering our history and our past, and we shall want to not get into, uh, you know, an issue with that, okay? Because certain countries will back off with trade, arms embargoes can be put. Obviously, not on Russia, but you have to be convincing. You have to make arguments that the Russian delegate will support you. And similar situation you have to create when it comes to other people, like other countries whose support you're looking forward to. Well, moving on from that, uh, so once you enter committee, the first thing that happens is the roll call. Okay, and you have the executive board in front of you. Depending upon your committee, you will have the president, vice president, and the rapporteur, or the chairperson, vice chairperson, or the rapporteur. Depending on certain specialized committees, you can have various other positions. Usually there are 3 to 4 people depending upon the size of the committee. Going by the mandate of what each person is required to do, the chairperson is solely responsible for the procedural aspect of the debate. And when it comes to the vice chairperson is solely responsible for the substantive part of the debate, and rapporteur is usually for keeping a track of what is happening. And although if the chairperson wants, the chairperson can also alter the substantive part of the debate. So obviously, since that's the senior most position, the chairperson has the greatest amount of, you can say, jurisdiction. The maximum amount of jurisdiction is given to the chairperson, then followed by the vice chairperson, followed by the rapporteur. So your rapporteur will take your roll call since he's maintaining all the records, and your rapporteur will be responsible for asking you that what your roll call is going to be. Now, starting from the point where you decide as to if you want to be a part of the voting procedure or not. Now, this voting procedure, I'm only talking about substantive voting. What is substantive voting? When you're voting on the resolution. When you're voting on the resolution, that is substantive voting. Other that is for raising motions, passing motions, adjournment, any other thing. That happens to be procedural aspect of the debate, where it does not matter if you voted present or present and voting. Now, coming back to what is present and voting. Present basically means that you might say a yes, a no, or you might abstain. All right. Abstention is nothing but you do not have a say when it comes to being pro it or against it. As simple as that. And when you're talking about going ahead and saying that you're present and voting, it means that you will definitely say a yes or a no. Now, being on the executive board, I personally do not really judge a lot on this criteria. But if I'm sitting in the Security Council and I'm discussing the Jammu and Kashmir issue, then if I have the Jammu and Kashmir issue, and if I have India and Pakistan, I would really look forward if India and Pakistan vote present and voting, because this is something they will have a yes or a no. India or Pakistan cannot really have a say on this particular issue. That okay, I don't care. I'll just abstain. All right, they will have a decisive yes or no. Why? Because you must be knowing, people those who have attended conferences, that in the actual UN setup, when the voting is taking place, the chip system is barred. You cannot talk to any code delegate. So how will your ally know that what do you want? You're sitting in the United Nations Security Council, and if I call China, Pakistan's ally, China will not know if they should be using their veto power or if they should not be vetoing the resolution, until unless Pakistan shows some inclination towards some point. All right. So if I'm saying yes, then China will say yes if I'm delegate of Pakistan. And if I'm saying no, then China has the thought of using its veto power. Although China has been very careful with using its veto, but that's a different case. I'm just giving you a hypothetical situation. Okay. Now, moving on from there, your roll call is done. All right. And from there, you will move on to, now certain MUN conferences have more than one agenda. All right. So obviously, when I told you about lobbying, this is where you try and convince people that which agenda is more important and which agenda is rather of, you can say, of more importance to the committee. All right. And what basically happens is that you basically raise your placard, and obviously the session has commenced. There's a simple motion for the commencement of the session. Then you move on to the establishment of agenda. When you're establishing the agenda, you basically say that now there's a set order. Okay, the set order is usually that when you get a background guide, agenda 1 item this, agenda 2 item this. Now suppose if I want to discuss second agenda first, all right, and the first agenda second, or depending on the time, I just don't want the first agenda to be discussed at all, because in MUNs it's very difficult to discuss the second agenda. So the way you say it is like, suppose if I am the delegate of Russian Federation, then I would say that the delegate of Russian Federation moves to initiate a motion for the establishment of agenda in the ratio 2:1. When I'm saying 2:1, I mean that I want to discuss the second agenda first and the first agenda second. As simple as that. There's nothing more to it. And once this happens, you will there happens, now it depends on the executive board and the strength of the committee. There's no set law for having a 3-on-3 or a 2-on-2 debate, but usually the max that you can go is a 3-on-3 debate. So there happens a 3-on-3 debate or a 2-on-2 debate, like 2 for and 2 against. And according to the debate, now what exactly do you say over here? Okay, you try and show the committee that why the second agenda is more important to the international community as compared to the first agenda. So what you basically tell them that this agenda, this particular agenda, is more important to the international community for the simple reason that it probably affects more people or needs urgent attention. So it all depends on that. And from there, it depends what happens, who votes where, how convincing you are. And once you believe that you were convincing enough, then you go ahead and you decide as to where the committee is heading. Okay, so a voting procedure is established for this, and votes are taken. And depending upon this is usually based on a simple majority. In certain specific conditions, it will go to a special majority that we will not really get into. But I'm just telling you for your knowledge that in certain conditions, it can go to a special majority, which is a very which is a prerogative of the chairperson. Okay, but usually it's a simple majority, and whosoever, like by simply 50% plus one. So the side that has argued better, or probably the agenda which is easier, or it depends what kind of how competitive a committee it is, that particular agenda will pass. Now moving on from there, also guys, if you have any doubts in between, you can definitely leave me a message. I have the other window simultaneously open, so you can tell me if you have any doubts as of now, anything you want to ask till this point of time. You can tell me if you have any doubts till this point of time. Nothing yet. Okay. Great. Then we should. All right. We should proceed. I'll wait for a couple of minutes for other people. Tell us about the opening speeches of the delegates. All right. Yes, we will get to that once we start doing the formal and informal debate. I'll let you know what exactly happens. So well, once you've established the agenda, now you know what you're talking about. The next thing that you do is you open the speakers list. Okay, now what is the speakers list? It is nothing but where you're trying to discuss as to what this committee should do, what this committee has done before, what is the status quo when it comes to the international scenario, and what all solutions are available at hand. Now, this usually is a 90-minute speech, and it's a very simple motion. The delegate of it's only you basically raise a motion by stating that the delegate of so and so country moves to initiate a motion for the uh, for the commencement of the general speakers list, which is GSL. And once the GSL has started, you're in the debate now. Okay, the GSL cannot get exhausted. Okay, in all the UN committees, the moment the GSL is exhausted, the debate is over. Okay, so it is the responsibility of the executive board to make sure that the GSL does not get exhausted. Now, moving on from there, now what you say in your opening speech is something that depends upon where you're placed on the general speakers list. Now, if the first speaker is also telling me the status quo, and the 10th and the 15th and the 20th speaker is also telling me the status quo, I don't really think that it is of much use to the debate and the executive board for marking you. Okay, so I usually break it down into a 5 and the remaining. Okay, so if you are and if you want to be in the top 5, uh, the top 5 delegates who are speaking in the GSL, you basically introduce the agenda, you tell them what it basically means, what it is, what it has, you tell them a little bit about the history of it, then you also tell them about what your country has done about the agenda, or what the committee has done about the agenda, or various other international organizations have done about the agenda, what has happened in the past, what can happen in the future, what are the possible solutions you have in mind. Now, you do not really go all over your solutions, you tell them a brief about what could be done. Okay, this is your first 5 speakers only. From there, people need to start picking up debate. Okay, I'm just talking about the GSL right now. You need to start picking up the debate by telling them about anything that comes to your mind, like what this committee should do. Okay, we're standing on the first day, what this committee should do, what this committee is lacking in, what this committee has not discussed, what this committee needs to discuss more, what are the questions that have never been dealt with, what is what are the various things where the committee has failed before, things like that. Okay, so it all depends on where you're placed in the GSL. Now, let's say if you're not even in the 10 and 15, then you basically say things that you wanted to say when you did not get recognized. Okay, or you can also do rebuttals. You can use these 90 seconds to do rebuttals, like you do not get like a speaker spoke after your speech, you do not get time to rebut, so you can definitely use the GSL time to rebut the speaker. Okay, so this is basically the formal aspect of the debate. Now, what happens when your 90-second speech is done? Okay, now it depends. Like, suppose if a 60-second speech, all right, and I have 30 seconds remaining, there's certain things that I can do at this time. Like, I can simply say that the delegate wishes to yield the time. Now, these are yields. Okay, since you are left with time, and committee time is really important, it should be used well. Okay, as simple as that. That is why you have yields. So you can yield to the chair, you can yield the time back to the chair. Now, it depends. Like, now, usually what people think that if you have yielded your time to the chair, you're supposed to go back and sit. No, unless and until the chairperson asks you to go back and sit. Okay, and the chairperson does not really want to get into a one-on-one confrontation, anything like that with you on a one-on-one question and answer session. It depends. So uh, they basically say that if you yield to the chair, it basically means that you want the chairperson to decide what happens. Okay, and in certain cases, I have also seen that the chairperson into a point of information. I will explain what that is later. Okay, and yeah, so moving on from there, uh, you can yield it to the chair. Okay, whatever amount of time you have left. After that, you can yield it to another delegate. Okay, like suppose, also to yield to another delegate, you should be in prior consent with the delegate. It just can't be out of the blue that, okay, I yielded to the India comes speak something, I yielded to the delegate of Pakistan. No, they will not have anything to say unless and until they were in prior consent with each other. Then the next thing that you can do is yield to point of information. Now, what are points? So we have done 3 yields, and now we are moving to points, and I will explain each point in detail. So let's talk about point of information first. Point of information is nothing but a questioning tool. Okay, point of information is used to ask questions to the delegate, as simple as that. Okay, and now, what are the other points that we have in hand? The other points that we have in hand are point of order, point of personal privilege, and point of inquiry. Okay, so point of order. Now, point of order purely in technical terms, is to point out a procedural error. As simple as that. Any procedural error will amount to a point of order. Like suppose the GSL was set up and I was recognized before the delegate of Bangladesh, and the delegate of Bangladesh got recognized before me. I raise a point of order and tell them that uh, the executive board is mistaken and the delegate of India was recognized before the delegate of Bangladesh, and hence I should be given a chance to speak before that. And obviously, it will get corrected. So it is purely used in technical terms. Again, I'm telling you technically in the UN, it is purely used for uh, procedural error. Now, let's come back to the MUN aspect of it. Point of order. Now, obviously, international actual diplomats, they cannot be factually incorrect. They have a research team sitting behind them. They have their facts straight. They do not debate on facts over there. That did this happen? No. Did this thing did not happen? No. They do not debate upon that. But when it comes to the MUN aspect of it, people can be factually wrong, and it's very appreciated if you know your facts right. Because if you know your facts right, then you know your research right. As simple as that. So what you basically do here is that you will go ahead and raise a point of order if someone is factually incorrect. Now, it completely depends on the discretion of the executive board if they allow point of orders during moderated caucuses or not, and also for this thing or not. Um, Basically, your factual inaccuracies or not. Now, also, when I say factual inaccuracy, it has to be a grave factual inaccuracy. Like if someone is saying that 1.3 billion is India's population, you cannot really raise it and say that, okay, no, India's population is 1.31428. No, it does not work like that. It is very irritating to do something like that for the executive board and for your co-delegate. But it has to be something like if they say that if if India is saying that, if India is going ahead and calling the 1999 war as a proxy war, and you know that on record India has gone ahead and stated that it wasn't a proxy war, it's a full-fledged war, it should be recognized by the international community, then you basically tell them that it's a point of order and you quote from where India has actually said that. Now, moving on from there, do we have any doubts till now? If you have any doubts, you can just type them in, and if you don't, just let me know. All right. Guys, let me know if you have any doubts. If you don't, let me know that you don't. All right, great. People don't have any doubts till now. That's great. Let's move on to other points. So we've discussed point of order, point of information. Now let's move on to point of personal privilege. It's as simple as if you have any physical discomfort, you use point of personal privilege. Okay. If you can't hear the delegate, if you want the air conditioning to be adjusted to your comfort level, then you can raise a point of information, a point of personal privilege. Moving on to point of inquiry, it is only a doubt when you have doubt in parliamentary procedure. Okay. Now, people, those who have attended one of the conferences known as IIMUN, I understand that they have really torn up the procedure when it comes to procedure. So it's not your fault, and I know how they have mixed up point of inquiry and point of information. However, you can check UNA USA or UN4 MUN procedure, and you will know that what the exact thing is. However, just be clear that the procedure that these guys follow is wise, like they have switched between point of information and point of inquiry, as simple as that. Okay, it is not that. Point of information is a questioning tool for another delegate. Point of inquiry is a questioning tool for parliamentary procedure. I hope we're clear on that. All right, moving on from there, we have done point of personal privilege, point of order, point of information, and point of inquiry. So, well, we have covered all the 4 points. Now, from how did we reach points? We reached points by yielding it to points of information. So we'll come back to yields. So what are the yields that we have discussed? We can yield to the chair, we can yield to another delegate, we can yield to a point of information. There's a fourth yield. The fourth yield is yielding to comments. Okay. Now it is not really advisable to go for yielding to comments because you can't really reply. Because if you really want to reply, just go ahead with the point of information. However, it is completely your prerogative. If you want to go ahead and tell the delegates that yes, just comment on my speech. If like people do it who think that the speech was flawless and brilliant, and people will not even raise their placard to uh, comment on their speech. So well, moving on from there, we will straight away move to the second. So this all was formal procedure. Okay, there are two aspects to the debate, and the second aspect has another two aspects. So it's like a tree. So we have discussed the formal procedure. Now we'll go to the informal procedure of the debate. So the formal procedure was GSL. The informal procedure is like when the executive board has recognized 5, 10, 15, depending upon how many people are there. When they have recognized these people, they will hint you that delegates, are there any motions on the floor? And you go ahead and raise a moderated caucus. A motion for the moderated caucus. Now, what is a moderated caucus? If you remember, when we were discussing about research, I had told you that you create subtopics. You make subtopics. So these subtopics that you've created out of the main agenda, which could be like, depending upon the agenda, 3, 4, 10, 15, 20, 120, 760, whatever, that how, like, it depends how many sub motions you've come up with, what sub agendas you've come up with. These sub agendas make your motion for the moderated caucus. Now, how do you raise a moderated caucus? So suppose if I'm the delegate of the Russian Federation, I will say that the delegate of Russian Federation moves to initiate a moderated caucus for a total time period of dash, with individual speaking time period of dash, on the topic dash. All right. So this is how you raise a moderated caucus. Now the maximum time limit that is allotted for the moderated caucus is 20 minutes, and you just have to make sure that your total time is divisible by the number of the individual speaking time, like exactly divisible. Okay, like if I'm saying it's 20 minutes, then I can go with 60 seconds, 120 seconds, things like that. Okay, uh, but I cannot go with 3 minutes individual speaking time. Why I can't do that? Because 3 minutes will not divide 20 minutes exactly. Okay, I will need 21 minutes or 18 minutes to do so. So the total time should be divisible by and exactly divisible by the individual speaking time. Okay. Now moving on from there, uh, there, there's no limit on how many moderated caucuses that need to be entertained. There's no limit on how many uh, other aspects of the debate that can be introduced. There's no limit to that. It depends. It just depends on how many days the conference is for, because we are talking about an MUN. It's not the actual human session. So depending upon 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, you just prepare according to that. Uh, Moving on from there, right. So now we talk about the various aspects, such as the presidential statement, challenges, motions, motion to preface, motion to table the resolution, and motion to board a delegate. There are various other motions that are in function. So let's start with presidential statements. Now, what is a presidential statement? A presidential statement is nothing, but it basically talks about at any point of the debate where you feel that you need to make a statement that comes from your president, then you clearly just raise your placard and say presidential statement. Now, this is one of the things which is not there in the actual UN, but has been incorporated in the MUNing, uh, you can say the MUN aspect of the debate, that so as to facilitate debate, as simple as that. And when you're trying to facilitate debate, there you really need tools within the MUN procedure so that you can help the delegates collide with each other. Okay, so that you can help people discuss more, debate more, because as you know that UN is a diplomatic platform, and it's not really fierce debate out there. It's purely factual, purely legal. It's based on it's a lot of it is based on international law, international statutory law, public international law, private international law, due cogens, just contra bellum, things like that. So and usually in MUNs we do not really see that happening. So this is the reason why um, things like presidential statements, challenges, Q&A sessions are set up. So well, uh, we will move on to presidential statement, and it is nothing. It does not need a vote. It needs nothing at all, and you just raise a presidential statement and it passes. The next thing is that a challenge. Now it is nothing but if I'm the delegate of the Russian Federation, and if we are talking about currency wars with People's Republic of China, and if I want to challenge People's Republic of China on a particular issue, then I just say that the delegate moves to initiate a motion for challenging the delegate of People's Republic of China on the agenda, topic, whatever that comes to your mind, and then you do so. Then, after this has happened, you go ahead, and it depends. Now again, what time period is set? It can be anything. The usual that people follow is a 5 minute, and the minimum that I have seen is a 2 minute, and it is something where there's no diplomatic courtesy. It is just like a one-on-one debate. Anyone can speak at any point of time. Interrupting is allowed. Everything is allowed, except swearing. Moving on from there. All right. So now we will not be dealing with advanced motions in this session, because there are certain motions that you get to learn once you are in the committee. Okay, it's very difficult to explain it to people, and procedure is something that you learn with experience. Like when I first went for my first MUN, first ever MUN conference, all I knew that I was sitting in the United Nations. I didn't know what exactly how it was going to proceed. But after 2 hours of debate, I was very comfortable. I knew that how I am supposed to make myself heard. As simple as that. You just know how people are going to speak. What do I have to do to get a chance to speak? As simple as that. Now, moving on from there. So, we were discussing about moderated caucuses. Now, there's a sub informal debate platform, which is known as the unmoderated caucus. Now, in the unmoderated caucus, now this is where you go ahead and form blocks. Like someone was pointing out at the lobbying session, like when we were talking about lobbying, someone was telling that you make blocks. No, this is not where you make blocks. You make blocks where you are given, see, certain amount of debate has unfolded before you, and since debate has unfolded, who's on your side and who's not on your side. So moving on from there, in the unmoderated caucus, you basically discuss as to, and when I say unmoderated, it is unmoderated. You're just being watched by the executive board or probably no one. And they basically see that how convincing, how good your lobbying is, how good you're at convincing other delegates as to what needs to be done, where should they land, how easily you can mold yourself to the situation, things like that. It basically checks your interpersonal skills at a very broad level. Now, moving on from that, so we have done the formal aspect, which is the GSL. We have done the informal aspect, which is the moderated caucus and the unmoderated caucus. What we are left with is the resolution making process. Now, what is the resolution? So if there is a bill in the Parliament of India and it passes, it is called an act. Now, this bill is the draft resolution, which once passes, it is called a resolution. Now, resolution has two parts. One is the operative, and the other one has preambulatory clauses. Now, preambulatory clauses are nothing but you just recognize the documents that you're going to quote. You just recognize the previous actions of the United Nations and things like that. You basically try and make a correlation between. Basically, when I read your preamps, I should know that what exact documents you have talked about, what exact documents you have basically quoted, and what all cases you've quoted, what all previous incidences that you're going to refer to, or you have taken lessons from, things like that. Now, operatives are the most important part of the resolution and of all the committee time that you've spent, because operative is something that your committee is going to do in future. Basically, your committee is going to, if your committee has a mandate to, if they have established a body, if they have appointed someone, if you're the HRC, if you've appointed a special rapporteur. So it depends on that. Now, the resolution making process can be a little complex. I will only be dealing with the primary motions, okay? So once you are done with the debate, you get into resolution making process and you introduce a resolution. The resolution is introduced by a simple motion, simple majority. And once a resolution has been tabled, it is very important to note that you need 1/3 of people to be signatories to your resolution. Now, being a signatory does not mean I sponsor or support the contents of the resolution. No, it only means that you just want the resolution to be discussed. It could be for anything. It could be for supporting it, or it could be for taking it down. As simple as that. All right. Now moving on from there, this was the resolution making process. Now moving on from the resolution making process, this is just the making part. Okay. Now I'll tell you the procedural aspect of it. So now there can be multiple resolutions, and it depends what your executive board actually wants when it comes to the resolution making process. Like if they are looking forward to a unanimous resolution, 1, 2, 3, depends on the number of blocks. But however, personally, if I'm on the executive board, I usually do not control as to how many resolutions I want. Okay, it depends on the committee. It is the delegates committee. Okay, usually this is how it happens, but it will be completely dependent upon your executive board. Moving on from there. Once a resolution is introduced, you will be asked to present a resolution clause in a clause-by-clause format. And in the clause-by-clause format, you will be asked to entertain point of information, and it only depends as to how well you're able to defend those clauses. And at any point of time, the vice chairperson has the mandate to ask the delegate to delete a particular clause. And just so you know that if a resolution is amended or deleted 2/3, it will automatically get scrapped, as simple as that. Then moving on from there, once you are discussing a particular resolution and it is over. Now it depends on the executive board, and you have to be really convincing if you're trying to go ahead and convince them that if they should directly move into voting, because if voting takes place and a resolution passes, the agenda is not coming back again to you. If you have a resolution pending, you really need to introduce it with the other resolution itself. So resolution discussed, questions asked. Now the floor will be open for amendments. Now amendments are nothing but are of 3 types. Okay, you just take your sheet, you write amendment. There are 3 types of amendments. addition, deletion, and modification. Okay, so you write if it's an addition, deletion, or modification. You quote and unquote the clause that you wish to change. You add, delete, or modify. As simple as that. Again, I repeat, 2/3 amendment means that your resolution is scrapped. This is by procedure. Now, why this is there? If 2/3 of the resolution needs to be amended, then obviously it needs to scrap. It needs to be scrapped. As simple as that. So, well, amendment procedure takes place. Once the amendment procedure is over, you go ahead and voting takes place. Now, I will not get into yes with rights and no with rights. That can be explained during committee time, and you will get it better then, because you will know that why the person is going for a yes with rights and no with rights. If you want, you can Google it, or if you really want, you have my number, you can call me and I will explain it to you. That's not a problem. But we will not waste this time right now for getting into yes with rights and no with rights. So you basically vote depending upon the roll call that you had made initially to the rapporteur, being present, and voting. If you have said present, you can abstain. If you've said present and voting, you can just say yes, no, or pass, and it will come back to you again, and you will have to say a yes or a no. So, well, this will be all from my side. If you guys have any doubts, you can just put in your doubts in the chat box, and I'll give you a 10-minute bracket to do so, and we can discuss whatever doubts you have. Because if you have any doubts, you can put it in the chat box. What about emergency situations? Is there a possibility of us having any? All right. By emergency situations, I think you mean that a crisis which is introduced in the committee, not exactly an emergency situation. So, well, yes, there is a possibility that you will have to face a crisis, but I'm not really allowed. And crisis, nothing. The procedure will not change. Okay, only the substantive part of the debate will change. And obviously, if the crisis is being introduced, it will be related to your agenda. Even if it's not, you're just expected to be quick on your feet and answer. Just be quick on your feet and apply your logic more than your research. It's as simple as that. So, yes, if there's a crisis introduced in the committee, the procedure remains the same. Anika, if that settles your doubt, please let me know. If we have any more questions, doubts, anytime, Anika, not a problem. All right, guys. I don't think there are any doubts that you guys have. I'm leaving my number on the chat box again, and you can contact me if you have any doubts at any point of time. Text me if that's possible. And if you have any doubts regarding procedure, research, if you're facing any problem logistically about the conference, you can contact me or Yog. I'm again really sorry for the delay, and I hope you enjoyed the session, and that'll be all from my side. Have a good night. Thank you.